I always want to be amongst the lonely reeds. Illuminate the moon, illuminate.
Hello, and welcome to the first episode of Chicken Wings and Wasted Dreams. I'm one of your hosts, Levi Daniel. Join me today, as always, will be my co-host, the proficient Tyler Thompson. Today we'll also be featuring the capable Ben Sisk.
The three of us will be taking you on a journey for your mind as we talk about the theory of anything from sports, music, to our favorite food hacks, game theories, and more.
Join us while exploring the depths of life's most meaningful questions like, what's the top 5 best conferences in college football today? As always, if today made your day even the tiniest bit better, please show your support by giving us a like, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and tell your friends. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Criteria-wise, we decided that the easiest way to settle this debate, or best way, or my way, whichever way you want to go with it, is to do an average overall rank over the last 4 years. We're not going to include this year because of obvious reasons. So this will be from 2015 to 2019 seasons. We are doing overall rank, average, the overall wins of the best, the cream of the crop. And for tiebreaker, we're going to do how many draft picks for each conference. So let's go ahead and get started. So should we start at number 5 and then work our way up to number 1, or should we just get number 1 out of the way? What do you all think?
Let's go 5 up.
5 up, okay.
So, this is where it gets a little dicey.
Okay.
Two teams are clear-cut ahead of, or two conferences are clear-cut ahead of the other three.
Right, okay.
The bottom 3 conferences are tied with 15 teams in the top 25 from 2015 to 2019. 3 conferences had 15 teams each over those years. You want to know the conferences?
Let's hold off that. Let's see if we can make our picks. So first, I'm gonna let Ben, because the gentleman I am, I'm gonna let him pick first. Who do you have for number 5, Ben?
My number 5, it would have to be Pac-12. Has to be.
Okay. I'm writing these down so we can go back later and visit this. So we've got our predictions written out here.
Awesome. I'm actually going to agree with Ben on this one. I know, debate show, and the first thing we do is agree on something. So I'm also going to agree that I believe the number 5 conference is the Pac-12, and we will be getting into why we think each one is where. So first of all, Pac-12, I think we can both agree that not a lot of heavy hitters the last 5 years.
No. Practically non-existent as far as like playoffs go, anything major. Like, they're just not around.
Yeah. I mean, you have Oregon, who sniffs the top 10, but doesn't quite like get there. USC has been.
They can get in.
Yeah, they can't get in. USC, where did they go? You know.
So USC was in the top 25 in 1 season, or 2 seasons, I'm sorry, from those years.
The last 5 years.
They finished 3rd in 2016 and 12th in 2017.
And it's been all downhill from there.
Yeah, not too many bright moments.
Yeah. Okay. So what is your prediction for number 4?
Number 4,
Mm-hmm.
ACC. Easy.
Okay. I promise we will get into some actual
The real thing's the top
disagreements.
3.
Let me,
These bottom 2 of the Power 5 are easy.
Yeah.
The coach
I mean,
for
ACC's way
USC?
better.
That when they finished those 2 top 25 rankings was Clay Helton.
Okay. Interesting. Good side fact there.
That's a real
Random
surprise
fun
to
fact.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a household name. Not a household name. So I do also think the ACC is number 4, and a lot of folks who might listen into this might think, well, ACC, they got the Natty Champ in a couple of those years, which is true, and you would think that would put them up higher on our lists, but I'm also going to rank them as the 4th best conference just from top to bottom. I think that they are so top heavy. North Carolina is kind of on the come up with Mac Brown over there, but
Yeah, I agree.
but the rest of it is just, I mean, name 5 ACC teams if you're not an ACC fan. That's what I'm saying. Okay, so what's our predictions for number 3?
Oof. Okay, this is where it gets spicy. In the top 3. My top 3, number 3 would be the Big Ten. Big Ten.
So
They're the 3rd
this is where we're gonna finally disagree on something. So Ben has the Big Ten at number 3. I actually have the Big 12 at number 3. Mostly for the same reasons of why I have the ACC at number 4. I feel like the Big 12 is really top heavy, and then after that, it really, really falls off. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, so that means number 2. Ben, what's your prediction on number 2?
Big 12.
Okay.
That's definitely the number 2 best conference you could go with as far as football, college football.
And again, this is where we're going to disagree. I'm going to go with the Big 12 or Big 10 at number 2 over the Big 12 because for reasons I stated, but we're going to get into a little bit more of that here in just a minute after we finish our rundown. Number 1, the only Power 5 conference left for both of us is the SEC, and I think we can talk a little bit right now, and then we'll kind of do like a reverse order here where we start kind of breaking it down. But the SEC,
Oh yeah, we're gonna need our stats guy to come in here.
yeah, the SEC for both of us is number 1. So I think why the SEC is the number 1 team. Well, let's look at our criteria. Overall rank, top 25. Tyler, can you go ahead and give us some stats about the SEC and why they are number 1?
All right.
Good talk.
So, it's interesting that that's the way you guys went. Because the team with the most teams to finish on the top 25 over these 5 years that we've chosen is the Big Ten.
Oh, okay. Big
Big
Ten
Ten has the
coming.
most ranked.
Big Ten had 27
25.
teams in the top 25 from these years. The SEC had 26.
Well, I mean, you also have to look at that quality over quantity. Just saying.
Okay.
Where they place.
So that's why overall rank's not just going to be our only criteria here, Ben, because I do agree. This is why I had the Big Ten at number 2, though, is because we have so many ranked teams, which usually means that we're winning. So I love this right now. I still think the SEC is the number 1 best conference overall, but hearing the Big Ten come in as the number 1 for our first criteria, that is just music to my heart. I love it. I love everything about that.
I don't know if I'd be riding on that for too long. Wait until we dive into it.
I have to soak it in, Ben. You have to soak it in. You have to enjoy the small wins in life. That's all I gotta
That's
say.
true. That's true. I agree.
Okay. So, so overall wins. How many overall wins does the cream of the crop for the SEC have, Ben?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Who do you?
What?
All right, who do you?
Who do you think's gonna have?
is
Who's
the
gonna,
number 1 win getter for the SEC?
Oh, the number 1 win?
Yeah.
Alabama. Easy.
And how many would you guess?
In the last 5,
Yeah.
I would say, I don't know, 63.
That's close.
Okay.
What do you say, Levi?
Yeah. So I do also believe that it's got to be Alabama, number 1 overall wins, and I'm gonna
You
say.
think number 1 overall out of all teams, or just SEC?
Oh, that we were just doing SEC.
Yeah, we're just doing SEC right now.
Out of all teams, ooh.
But
No, we're just doing
choose
SEC
your,
right now.
choose your SEC right now.
Okay, so for just SEC, yes. For all teams, I'd really have to sit here and think about it for just a minute, but for just the SEC, I'm gonna say Alabama, and I'm gonna go 60 because I want to kind of undercut Ben a little bit here.
Okay. So, Alabama actually had 66 wins
Oof.
over that time period.
66.
Okay, and this is why this makes the SEC a strong case for number 1, is because top to bottom, I do feel like they are a really strong conference. I think if you took Alabama and you put them in any other conference, they would still be, top ranked year in, year out.
They would still be Alabama in any conference.
Yeah.
No matter what. Like, I feel like that's just a machine that nobody's stopping until Nick Saban decides to call it.
So, out of our little top 15 here of these like powerhouse type schools, if you want to call them that, the SEC has 4 teams in the top 15 of wins when they were in the top 25 over this period.
Yeah. That statistic right there tells you
4 teams in what again? Sorry.
In our little top 15 that we've made of these typical powerhouse or well-known schools for that
The
conference.
SEC has 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You can't. It's facts, man.
Yeah,
those are
you better agree with the
statistics.
facts, because I mean that's the truth.
I don't agree with all statistics.
Ben likes to think with his heart, not his
The
head.
only numbers that lie, I feel like, are some of the rankings. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in numbers never lie. I think Ben's kind of the opposite.
Numbers never lie, but I feel like the rankings were fudged.
Okay.
Like they just they're not correct.
Oh, you're calling me out.
No, not you. I'm just saying whoever does the college football rankings, like they don't get it right all the time. I don't feel like. Heck, why is Florida State always in the top? Like at least 20. Like really, are they really a top 20 team always?
Well, not to get off subject here, but I kind of do want to give Ben a little bit of credibility here because people always rank the Cowboys in the top 5 of the NFL, and they're never even close.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Florida
that's a story
State-
for another day. But yeah,
FSU,
ranks
they
are
finished
always fudge.
in the top 25 2 years out of this time period that we're talking about.
Well,
from
see, that's already
2015 to
almost half.
2019.
Literally 2.5.
But they
You
were
know,
back-to-back years. They
Yeah.
finished
So see?
14th in 2015, and then they finished 8th in 2016.
Yeah, they should never be in the top 15. Never in the top 20. Not now.
yeah, I agree. I think Florida State is that statistic right there tells you
4 teams in what again? Sorry.
In our little top 15 that we've made of these typical powerhouse or well-known schools for that
The
conference.
SEC has 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You can't. It's facts, man.
Yeah,
those are
you better agree with the
statistics.
facts, because I mean that's the truth.
I don't agree with all statistics.
Ben likes to think with his heart, not his
The
head.
only numbers that lie, I feel like, are some of the rankings. That's it.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in numbers never lie. I think Ben's kind of the opposite.
Numbers never lie, but I feel like the rankings were fudged.
Okay.
Like they just they're not correct.
Oh, you're calling me out.
No, not you. I'm just saying whoever does the college football rankings, like they don't get it right all the time. I don't feel like. I mean, heck, why is Florida State always in the top? Like at least 20. Like really, are they really
So-
a top 20 team always?
Well, not to get off subject here, but I kind of do want to give Ben a little bit of credibility here because people always rank the Cowboys in the top 5 of the NFL, and they're never even close.
yeah.
So
yeah,
Florida
that's a story
State-
for another day. But yeah,
FSU,
ranks are
they
always
finished
fudged.
in the top 25 2 years out of this time period that we're talking about.
Well,
from
see, that's already
2015
almost half.
2019.
Literally 2.5.
But they
You
were
know, like-
back-to-back years. They
Yeah.
finished
So see?
14th in 2015, and then they finished 8th in 2016.
Yeah, they should never be in the top 15. Never in the top 20. Not now.
Yeah, I agree. I think Florida State is, for the last few years, has not that great. But they have shown in the past to put together some really good draft classes, really good recruit classes, I should say, and they are one of the most athletic teams, most talented teams. But they never seem to quite put it together for whatever reason.
Yeah, it never clicks. But I mean, I'm not saying they're like the players were ever bad, but yeah, it just never
Yeah,
clicks for the team. The teams were bad.
Yeah.
The teams didn't click.
Could be a Ben taking a shot at the coaches over there at Florida State.
I mean, whatever's going on over there, I don't know.
Yeah, hey, that's fine. We're nobody said we're here to make friends. We're just here to talk some sports. Okay.
That's a fact.
So, I think we both can definitely agree, though, that based on the wins, I don't think we necessarily need to go to a tiebreaker here, but if we have to, we would. But I believe that the SSC is also going to win the draft pick war. Tyler, tell us about those draft picks. Can we break this tie?
So it's looking like a pretty clear-cut lead.
Yeah.
I gotta add in. Let's see, we're adding in Pac-12 now, and it's pretty hefty.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, are we
So-
talking like total drafted, or are we doing first round?
So this is total drafted from 2015 through 2019 by the top 5 conferences. So, who do you guys think? Give me your 1 through 5 on this.
like for draft period, like just players
total
drafted.
players
Okay.
drafted
Um,
over this time period.
Are we
that we're
going
talking
5
about.
up?
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, 5 up.
Okay, so I would have to say number 5 is the ACC.
How about you, Levi?
I actually think there's a lot of picks coming out of the ACC. So, and I don't really see too many Pac-12s as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that it is also the Pac-12 at number 5.
Pac-12. Did you say ACC, Ben?
Yeah, Atlantic.
Yeah, he said ACC number 5, not Pac-12.
Oh, okay. Well, then we already disagreed. That is my bad.
All right,
Yeah.
so
My number
four.
4 is Pac-12.
Okay.
Okay.
Now this might surprise the folks listening in. I would actually have the Big 12 here at number 4. I think the Big 12 doesn't get a lot of people drafted on the defensive side of the ball, which is why I think that they're a little bit lower than we're going to expect.
It's a fact. That's true.
What about number 3?
Big 12.
Okay.
That's what I got my number 3.
I've got ACC here at number 3. I think the ACC has a lot of bodies coming out of there on, the average on both the offensive and defensive side is going to edge out the Big 12 just slightly. And then number 2.
Gonna go SEC.
You think SEC?
You
is
think
number
SEC?
2?
You think the SEC?
Because I think the
is
Big
number
10
2.
has
Are
a
you-
lot of players. Like, you always hear people from Big 10 schools,
I mean-
it seems like, in the NFL.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
I
But
like it. I like it.
I'm gonna go Big 10 number 2 here.
You know what? Maybe I should. I don't know. I really wasn't
No, it's
thinking about
too-
the
you
last
can't-
5.
you
But
can't- no,
I
no,
understand.
no,
I'm
you
not
can't.
going back.
Yeah.
Not going back.
No backsies here.
That's just, I don't know. I was just thinking overall.
All right, I'll go from 5 up.
Okay.
With
Okay.
111 players drafted over this 5-year period, the number 5 team, or conference, I'm sorry, is the Big 12.
Surprising. Yeah. Okay.
That is very surprising.
Okay. A lot of good offense coming out of the Big 12. Not a lot of defensive.
That's kinda what
I
I
did
would've
call
figured,
this
yeah.
as the surprise, but I didn't think that they would be that low. That is definitely interesting. So we know that Big 12 is not winning any tiebreakers today.
So, number 4, which Ben got right, is the Pac-12 with 170 players drafted.
Okay. Okay. I knew that they would be lower on the list.
So that is a 59-player difference there.
Yeah, that's a big difference. That's a big difference.
So number 3, which Levi actually got correct, is the ACC with 189 players drafted
Wow.
over that time period.
That's
That's-
crazy. I
that's
wouldn't have pegged it.
So it's a 19-player jump from the Pac-12.
Yeah, not as big of a jump, but still a sizable gap there.
Oh yeah, these 2 through 4 is pretty grouped together. So number 2, which Levi got right, is the Big 10 with 190 players. One more player than the ACC.
That's actually closer than that's
Really?
really closer than I thought it was gonna be.
Now, the
honest.
most shocking part
Shocked.
is our number 1 is the SEC with 275 players over this 5-year period.
Yeah, okay, yeah, over the last 5, yeah.
You're
SEC's
jumping
got that.
from 190 to 275.
7, almost 100. It's an 80 something. Jeez.
Yeah, and I could call
Yeah,
this 'cause
85 players.
something that we're definitely going to have to do this year, boys, is some draft coverage on draft night. I think that'd be awesome.
That'd be big.
I watch the draft religiously every year. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I just love to watch the draft. And I could definitely tell you, and I'm not just the first night, second night guy. I'm there third night.
All
Watch,
7.
yeah, all 7 rounds. Tyler's usually there with me. We talk about it. but the SEC's names come up every round, multiple times, up and down the draft. The defensive talent in the SEC is just phenomenal. You know, offensively, they have been getting better and better each year. They've been trying to compete with some of these other conferences offensively. So, again, my pick for the number one overall, and Ben's pick for the number one overall by wins. You know, the Big Ten got the rank, a little bit of surprise. Wins, I had a strong feeling it was going to be the SEC. Tiebreaker goes to SEC for the enormous gap that they have on every single other conference. I mean, when you just look at the raw talent coming out of there and the raw talent that's in the South in general, which that might be a different conversation for a different day, is what region we think has the most talent. I'm just going to go ahead and say I think
absolutely down here in the South.
Yeah, the South has got it. But you know, Ben does live in Seattle. Maybe his thoughts have changed since moving out there. Maybe he thinks that West Coast talent is legit, which it is. It's
See if he changed his mind.
It's
when he
different.
turned his
It's
back.
different.
yeah, it's okay. Yeah, you know. So we are we all in agreement that number one is the SEC?
Overall,
Yeah, overall number one conference.
I mean, you got one team difference of teams in the rankings.
Mhm.
They have a 85 player difference in total. So I agree with it. But the only thing is the total wins by the individual teams throughout. I'm gonna go down that list.
Okay.
So who do you think is number one with total wins when they were in the top 25 for these 5 years?
For all teams, right?
Clemson.
Yes, for our big teams, yes. Okay, so Clemson for Ben.
Yeah. I'm gonna stick with Alabama.
So you think Alabama's number one
Yeah.
with their 66 wins?
I just say Clemson because of the cupcakes they play.
How many wins do you guys think for Clemson?
Clemson's probably hit 70.
I'm gonna say 62.
Okay.
I mean, we already know Alabama's got like 66.
Yes.
Alabama has 66. So Levi said 62. And Ben, you said 70. So Clemson has 69 total wins. 3 more than
69.
Alabama.
Nope. That's
Okay.
what I would have figured. They play more cupcakes.
But we had 3 teams reach 60. Who do you think the third team is?
Ohio State.
It's Ohio State.
It is 61 wins. So they just barely cracked in. And now number 4 is our Big 12 entry, Oklahoma. 58.
Okay.
5 is a real surprise for me. I mean, I really didn't see this one coming. I really didn't see 5, 6, or 7 coming. 5 is LSU with 51 wins.
Okay.
And that is while they were ranked over these seasons. So
Right.
they may have missed a year when they weren't ranked and had more wins, but this is just when they finished in the top 25 for that season.
Right. Yes.
So then 6, we have Wisconsin at 44 wins.
Okay. I kind of seen that coming. Wisconsin wins a lot of games every year. They're kind of underrated.
Number 7 is Penn State with 42. And I think it's all James Franklin, honestly.
Yeah. I think James Franklin's been there for a while. Definitely. Why I think again, we're not going to talk about the number 2 conference right now, but looking pretty good for old Levi over here for his top 5 rankings. So now we're going to reverse it again. So we got the number 1 team out there. You heard it here first. This is not opinion anymore. This is facts, okay? The SEC is the best football conference in college football, and yeah, and it's fact because you heard it here. When we decide something, when we actually agree on something, there is no longer any disputing it. No other tier
Pretty
list
much
matters.
martial law, at least, at a
Yeah,
minimum.
absolutely. No other tier list out there matters. You can go anywhere. If they disagree, they are wrong about this number one pick. Okay, so now, like I said, we're going to reverse it. We're going to go to number 5. And we're going to guess the number 5, and then we're going to work our way up. The reason why I did it like this is because I knew we were going to be in agreement about the number 1, and I wanted to kind of rip that one off there so the folks who are listening in, they get their gratification. Now they can kind of choose to stay if they want. I hope that they do. But let's go ahead and talk about number 5. So Ben, you had the Pac-12. The Pac-12. Why do you think the Pac-12 has underperformed all these years?
Well, I feel like they definitely underperformed on the recruiting front, having a lot of prime real estate where they are, being the Pac-12. They could definitely be getting a lot better players, so I think the talent has definitely died in the Pac-12, and I think that's definitely led to their downfall, definitely in the last 5 to 10, definitely. They've fallen from grace.
Well, the one thing I will disagree about what you just said is the talent's not there because from our draft pick analysis, they seem to have some talent. So I would say the
Talking about
talent's
the
there.
recruiting, yeah, I mean, their recruiting classes are always low, but I mean, just because people, you have to agree, there are definitely players who definitely blossom in the NFL and have mediocre, somewhat college careers. Like
Okay.
they get that jump. So not only you can't just look at how they perform in the NFL, you have to look at how they're doing in college.
Right. So Ben is calling out every single Pac-12 coach saying, y'all need to step up your game.
Every single Pac-12 recruiter, you guys are fucking up. Head coaches need to call me.
So, what Ben said about the Pac 12 usually falling short in the recruiting rankings is pretty accurate. There's one, two, three, four. Out of the top 5, they have one team at USC. In 2015, they finished second. 2016 was 8th. 2017 was 4th. 2018 2018 was 4th. And in 2019, they finished 20th in the recruiting rankings.
Can we all agree that the only good coach in the Pac-12 right now is Herm Edwards?
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
He's turning Arizona State. Like, they were always, kind of mediocre, kind of on the bottom level. They're creeping up now, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
I
I like Chris Peterson, the Boise man, the former Boise man.
former Boise
Yeah.
coach.
But, I mean, you kind of got the creme de la creme at Boise. I feel like that's just a different
Ah, he's
animal.
at
Jumping from like
Washington
a
now.
Boise. No, I'm saying like jumping from like a Boise or like a, what is it? The Chippewa, Central Michigan, or like the good bottom conference schools. Making that transition from going from like a, MAC to a Pac-12 was a big jump.
So actually, about Chris Peterson, he stepped down at the end of the season last year as Washington's head coach due to stress, and he's taking a leadership advisory role in the athletics program. In his final game, he beat his former team Boise in the Las Vegas Bowl, 38-7, to go.
That's
I
pretty
guess,
fitting.
I guess, kind of get back at him before he went out.
Yeah. So what Tyler's really saying right here is he's about to pull an Urban Meyer, take a year off, and then get a Power Five top Power Five job is what Tyler's hinting at over there. So let me go ahead and spell it out for those who didn't catch those subtle hint drops right there.
What do we think about Kevin Sumlin though? He went to Arizona.
Honestly, I
He's-
have always thought Kevin Sumlin has been a joke. I think he was saved in Texas A&M just because of the simple fact that he was in Texas and could recruit in Texas and have Texas A&M with the logo and the name and everything. He's nothing.
So he's got a point, I would say. So let's see. He got. I'm gonna say he's got the Texas A&M job based on his last season in Houston. They went 12-1, 8-0 in the conference.
Yep, and then jumping from a Houston to the SEC
But
didn't fare
his
too well.
first year in the SEC, if I'm not mistaken, I think he had Johnny Manziel. I think
Yeah,
2012.
well, that's what I'm saying. Like
They went 11-2 in his first year at College Station.
11-2, yeah.
But
Like while
do we-
Johnny was there, they were
Yeah.
monsters.
So he's proven that he can win with talent. Does
But then
Arizona
again-
have talent?
He went
like,
5-7 in his first season at Arizona, and went 4-8 last year at Arizona.
I
when
mean,
you
5
think
and 7,
about
4 and
Arizona,
8.
do you really think football?
That's true.
It's
I think
honestly
basketball.
more of a basketball school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
so-
So whenever you think Texas A&M, do you think basketball? Or do you think football?
Football.
Actually, their basketball program has been pretty decent
think
last
they're
couple of
12th
years.
man.
So while we're on the topic of Pac-12 coaches, there's somebody who just can't seem to go away. Chip Kelly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's still getting jobs.
He is currently the UCLA.
UCLA.
head coach.
Yeah.
Yeah. And doing a terrible job for the talent there as well, you know.
He's doing chip things.
That's true.
He
2018,
should
he
be
went
in Chip.
3-9.
Yeah.
So he was good at what, Cincinnati, was it? That's where he had his big break?
No,
No,
Chip was in
Oregon.
Oregon. So
Was
let's
Oregon?
see.
Yeah,
His
that's-
Oregon record: 10-3, 12-1, 12-2, 12-1.
4 consecutive BCS Bowl game appearances, and he was also in that BCS National Championship, that really awesome one with Cam Newton on the other side.
Which, honestly, if we're being honest, they should have won that, but they missed a
Oh.
huge,
Yeah,
Kick.
Auburn shouldn't have won it, but
missed
they
a
did. Got
massive
the titles
kick.
in the SEC and in the state of Alabama.
So he took his little excursion to the NFL, came back. So he was out of college for 6 years. He came back in 2018. In his first year in UCLA, he was 3-9, and then the second year was 4-8. So he's,
Progress.
I would say, he's a hot seat coach.
Yeah,
Honestly,
for sure.
everybody in that Pac-12 should be a hot seat.
That's true. Okay,
Everybody.
so
that's
let's
what
go
I'm saying,
ahead and
get
move on from the Pac-12 because
They're obviously number 5.
yeah, they are obviously the number 5.
They were-
We definitely need to go through conferences and grade coaching staffs. I think that would be a fun topic.
Yeah, I think we kind of took a little bit of a detour there with our time.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and kind of speed this up. We can talk coaching in our next podcast, or because I think we're gonna do best coaching any sport, and then we can break it down from there.
We
But-
can break it down by conference.
That's what I'm saying. Like, we'll
Obviously,
grade.
That's
We'll
true.
see which conference has the best coaches.
Yeah,
Just
I think that's
solidify
a-
who's got it.
that's a great idea. I just think that for today's argument,
Yeah.
we kind of overstepped a little bit there in the Pac-12 coaches.
We kind of
That
go
was
off
just
A
so
on
little bit,
bad.
yeah. We
Go off
so
on these
much to
tangents.
talk about.
these tangents, yes, absolutely. So let's move
So back
on.
track.
Number 4, me and Ben were both in agreement here. The ACC. Well, we didn't even reveal
No, you had it.
we didn't even reveal number
Oh, yeah.
5 with the overall rank or wins. So, but let's talk about number 4 just a little bit, and then we'll backtrack a little bit. Tyler can tell us who actually did finish number 5 per statistics. So number 4, ACC. Me and Ben both agreed here.
Yeah.
The reason why I had ACC number 4 is because I feel like they're so top heavy. I think that's my biggest thing with them. In terms of draft picks, they really, kind of surprised me, but I don't think that they're going to finish really highly in the rank or wins.
I mean, honestly, with the ACC, you think of the last 5 years, you can literally only think of one team.
Yeah,
Now, they have other
Clemson.
good teams, but as they, compare to conference, like, lineup, like, they don't have any firepower. Like, they have just Clemson. Behind Clemson, I would just have to say it's Miami or, North Carolina, depending on the year. And then they just flip flop. Those are the top three.
Now, I think North Carolina is on the up and up. We're not going to include this year, even though they had a great recruiting class coming into this year and next year, by the way. Mac Brown is doing things over there in North Carolina. And so I think Miami is super, super talented. Always has been, always will be. But again, I think we got to take some shots at the coaching staffs over there in the ACC. I think that they're mishandling this talent. Obviously, the NFL is seeing something in the ACC because they keep drafting these players.
Oh, yeah. They have a bevy of places I feel like they could go for scouting and polling recruits,
Yeah.
Like, they just have plenty of places. South Carolina, Florida, Georgia.
Yeah.
Lots of places. Virginia.
Well, I just think that when they get to the NFL, they seem to do a lot better than they do in college. And when they get to the NFL, what's the difference? Is it the level of coaching? It's got to be, right?
It's the coaching, yeah. That's literally the biggest jump.
So, again, Ben taking shots at the coaching. Actually, I took the shot this time for you, Ben. So,
If you had to guess, how many times would you think Clemson placed top 10 in recruiting over these past 5 years?
Placed top 10 over the last 5 years.
Or
in recruiting?
Through 2019, yeah.
Once. I'm going to say it's going to be... It's going to be a
I'll say
shocker.
all 5.
4 out of 5.
Okay.
8, 10, 16, 6, and 10 were their places from 2015 through 2019.
That's not bad. I mean, that's not bad, but that's definitely... you would think that because they're always in the mix for a championship that they'd be higher, but Debo does things a little differently. He's kind of like... He likes to grow his players, so he likes to find these, 3 and 4 stars that he builds up into 5-star talent, which you got to respect. You got to respect that, right?
So over 5 years, their average place was 10th out of top 25 recruiting. But a big surprise to me here, Florida State had a higher average rank than Clemson over 2015 through 2019.
Yep.
Florida State finished 3rd, 2nd, 6th, 11th, and 17th.
So Ben definitely took a shot at Florida State a little bit earlier in the podcast. I definitely agree, though. They're so talented every year, which is why they get ranked. Ben's talking about, fake rankings. The reason why Florida State gets ranked highly, and, we can look at the NFL for, the Cowboys or even other teams like Philadelphia, the Lions. They have all this, talent, but for whatever reason, it just doesn't translate to wins. To me, that's Florida State. They're that team that's always ranked higher than what they should be, and then they get on the field and they look like one of the worst teams, or a lesser team to some of these better teams that we're going to be talking about. So,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, we've got about 15 minutes left, boys, and we're only on number 4. Well, we got number 1 out of the way. So let's go ahead and reveal top 5 and 4. So, Tyler, which conference finished number 5 for overall rank?
See, that's where we have the three-way tie there.
Okay, so
They had the 15 teams. But if you want to break it down by their powerhouse teams based in the top 15 or most well known, the ACC only had one team in the top 15 of total wins for their well known schools based on our rankings.
Okay, so that's interesting. So that was Clemson, obviously, right?
Yes.
But that's a real strong contender. That's why I had the ACC at number 4 is because they are so top heavy. As the stats don't lie, Ben. Numbers don't lie, Ben. Okay. So
Most numbers don't lie.
So what about the wins? Since there's a three-way tie for 5th, 4th, and 3rd. We haven't even talked about our 3rd picks, but what about the wins? Who is number 5 for total wins over that time?
For out of our total wins of the total schools,
For the cream conferences, cream of the crop.
we had number 5 on the list of those schools. Not number 5. My bad. LSU was number 5 on the list.
No. That's not. I was talking about like who. Which conference did you or did you just have the teams? That's fine.
We
if you
had
just
the teams.
Okay,
went with
okay,
the
we
teams
just
on
went
this
to
one.
teams. Okay, that's fine. So since we have a three-way tie, how are we gonna settle this? But draft picks, right?
The draft picks is a
Well,
big...
draft picks, the ACC would move up in our rankings, wouldn't they?
Yeah, they would be 3rd.
Yeah.
If you want to factor that in.
Okay. So, me and Ben both agreed that ACC was 4th, but it's sounding like, based on the numbers, we might have ranked them a little too low, but I still think Clemson's doing too much work here. I can't rank them any higher than 4th because I feel like it's all Clemson. If we took Clemson out of the ACC, they wouldn't even be on this list. We would be talking about the Power 4 conferences.
That's a fact.
So, I think because it was a tie, and the tiebreaker would be draft picks, but overall wins also plays a fact here, right? And I don't think that they have the overall wins department, even though we didn't do it by conferences, we did it by teams.
So here's a big part of it right here.
Okay.
Out of the ACC teams that were in the top 25 for these years had a combined total of 142 wins.
Okay. What about
Clemson had 69 of those.
Yeah.
By themselves.
Yeah, that's a big chunk. So, with that being said, are we putting the ACC at number 5, or are we keeping them at 4? We have to tier this. I say 4 as well. I think we both agree. How many total wins over that time period did the top 25 teams for the Pac-12 get?
Working on that now just to get the exact number, so we have all of our information here.
Okay. Because I think that we have to stick with Pac-12 at 5 and then ACC at 4. Because Pac-12 really only had the USC in their top 25 there's Oregon was, I guess, around 2, but the Pac-12 really didn't have any, top 5 finishes, I don't think. They haven't had any champions come out of the Pac-12, so...
Pac-12 had 1, 2, and 3 top 5 finishes in these years.
Okay, so I was wrong. But that's okay. It's okay to be wrong sometimes. But we know that the Pac-12 hasn't won any championships in the last 5 years. The ACC has with Clemson. So I can't put, in the official tier list, I can't put the Pac-12 over the
In
ACC.
good conscience.
Yeah, yeah. You know, just for that simple fact. So I'm going to have Pac-12 at 5. We're going to get the wins total here in just a minute. But I'm going to say it's going to stay firm, in agreement with Ben. Number 1 is going to be the SEC. Number 5, Pac-12. Number 4, ACC. And where we're really going to get into it is going to be here in number 3 and 2. So that's what we're going to go ahead and get into. But once we get the total wins for the Pac-12 and ACC, we'll make it official.
Okay, so our total wins for the ACC over this time period of these teams was 102. So a 40 win difference. They have 40 less wins than the ACC.
Yeah, so right there. I think that's... I know Clemson's carrying that load, but Clemson pretty much by themselves almost beat Pac-12. By themselves, that one team. So we have to put ACC at number 4 officially. We have the Pac-12.
Just because Clemson will be any team in the Pac-12 any day. Doesn't matter if it's A team, B team.
Yeah, absolutely. The Clemson's going to beat pretty much any team that put out there. I think LSU was last year, and this is something that we're going to have to talk about on some other day, but I think LSU was like more of a abnormal phenomenon of just like, Joey Burrow is legit. Shout out Urban Meyer for recruiting him to Ohio State, but not giving him a chance, and him going to LSU and doing big things, having probably the greatest single season of of quarterback that we've probably seen in a long time. It will probably be outshadowed by Trevor Lawrence's senior season if he comes back, because there's been rumblings that he doesn't want to go to a team like the Jets, but we'll see with that. But right now, that's a conversation for a different day. Let's go ahead and lock it in. The official rankings. If you hear differently on any other channel, it is wrong. We are the ones that are right in this because we are in agreement. And when the triangle of trust is in agreement, there's no other way to cut it. This is official. Pac-12, you are the worst Power 5 conference. ACC, you get number 4 just because you have one of the best teams there and one of the best coaches. And that's something that we're going to have to talk about in a different video. Is the coaching staffs here at each of these schools. So, number 3, Ben. This is where we differ.
Yes.
You had and I'm feeling real confident right now. Real confident after hearing all that we've heard throughout the podcast here today with the wins and the draft picks.
Yeah.
I know you're not feeling so confident. What say you?
Well, I don't know. I feel like, with the draft picks, you really can't lie with that. It's definitely the conference is getting a bigger eyeball, getting looked at more, so understood. But I don't know. I just feel like it's not right. But, it's just my own personal opinion.
Okay, so Ben is sticking with his picks. So we're gonna talk about it. See if I can change Ben's mind here. So my number 3 was the Big 12. The reason being is, overall ranks. The Big 12 is really top heavy. You have Oklahoma and Texas, and not much else after that. They tend not to play any defense, although I will say I like Texas's defense from a talent standpoint over Oklahoma personally. That could just be my opinion, my eye test there. But in general, it's their shootouts every single week. That was always why I feel like they don't get as many wins at the end of the day. I think the Big Ten and our SEC pick for number one play better
Oh,
balanced football.
I have to say something.
You have to say it?
Like,
Okay.
yeah, I have
All
to.
right.
Okay.
The floor
So,
is yours.
you do want to bring up this fact of defense, which I will say that I would put money down more often on a Big Ten defense than a Big 12 defense. But I'm just saying, you agree that the top team in the Big Ten would be Ohio State, correct?
Oh yeah, I mean those are just facts right there.
Okay.
That's not
Those
even
are
biased.
Okay. But whenever they lose, and they usually do lose to just, some sort of like random school like a Purdue or an Indiana or something like that, but whenever they do lose, it's like they're, like the games aren't like how in the SEC usually, it's easy to watch like a 9-6 game, in the SEC. Whereas if you think of defense in the Big 12 or Big 10, what is it, like giving up 4 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns? Like usually they're like in the 30s and 40s in those games. So I don't think that the defense like really weighs in it like a big factor, because you still see the 40 point, each team putting up 40 in the Big 10, you still see each team putting up 40 in the Big 12 as well.
I'm still going to give the Big Ten defenses just because the top end of the Big Ten defenses, especially like in the last 4 years, has been a lot better than the top end of the Big 12 defenses. But also, we've got some good offenses too.
Yes,
Ohio
no,
State's
offenses, yeah. They're
Ohio
both
State's
really good on both
offense.
ends.
Wisconsin will grind it out. Penn
Well,
State.
yeah, whenever you think of like a Big 12, it's a air raid, almost like a Pac-12 in a way, Like they just like to pass it, go vertical. But
hmm
Big 10, you do get your teams that are going to be powerhouses running, and then you get your teams that are going to spread you, kind of like the SEC.
And I'm real excited when we talk about coaches, because one of the biggest debates in college sports right now is Ryan Day versus Lincoln Riley. And that's a real interesting conversation right there. I think we'll save that for the end of that podcast. But for right now, let's reveal the numbers. Tyler, who's the third best conference?
So, based on the wins here, the third most winning team is the ACC, though. But based on wins by the teams in the top 25.
And
Okay, that's a
all
curveball.
Clemson, essentially.
When
That is all
Yeah.
Clemson, though, yeah.
That is 69 of those wins were by Clemson. The Big 12 is number 4 with 136 wins.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, the Big 12.
And Oklahoma has 58 of those.
Yeah, so they're in a similar situation as the ACC. And that's a little bit of a curveball, but we knew it was coming because Clemson just has been so good. But something that Ben said earlier, and I don't know if anybody caught it, but I'm gonna revisit. Clemson does have a lot of wins against some powder puff, powder cake, whatever you want to call it, some real not so good competition.
They play nobody. Nobody. Nobody worth mentioning as far as like a really, overall high-powered, decent defense like teams, at least a few times during the season. They don't get those matchups. They get those matchups in, the playoffs.
And this is something that I think says a lot about Clemson, though, and about how good they actually are, because they still show up to the big game and do well. I think that part of that, though, is because they do play these lesser teams. They're not as banged up when they get to the big games. They're more, they've been, hitting big plays all year, so their confidence is a lot better than some of these other teams that, they might have, Alabama might have went into a team like Georgia and have to come back from 17 down like they did this year and, make it a real close game and win by a field goal or win in overtime. Things like that happen in the SEC, whereas Clemson kind of just powers through everybody, and then they're healthy, they're happy, and they're ready to go at it. And I think that's why they do compete so well in the big game.
I agree.
And was able
I've
to
got a pretty
upset.
good.
Yeah,
I've
what's
got a
up?
pretty good stat about Clemson versus the SEC.
Okay.
So Clemson under Dabo Swinney against the SEC, they are 18-9,
That's a
And
really
Really,
good
so
stat.
shooting at 500.
and they are
500,
12.
Ben.
They're over 18 wins and 9 losses.
Ben's a little remedial over there with his math.
No, sorry.
That's
so
why-
in the college
Dad
football playoff era against the SEC, they're 12-3.
That's
They have
even
won
way
10
better.
of their last 11 against the SEC since the start of the 2016 season, including a 6-1 mark against the SEC West in that span.
That's real good. That's a real good stat. Yeah.
That's definitely shocking. I
Yeah,
think
but-
something that would be pretty interesting to look at one day would be like who we pick as like the top team of every conference, and then look at like an overall sort of like what their recruiting classes have been over an X amount of years, and like what like maybe an average of the teams that they play, like what their recruiting classes would have maybe been at, that way we can maybe see like, hey, this team's consistently, playing like teams who are getting better players, so-called better players, by these rankings.
Okay. Another day, another dollar for sure on that one. But right now, we're going to have to lock it in, Ben. The Big 12 is the third best conference based on our
I
criteria.
bring up a lot of parking lot stuff.
I know you brought up a lot of good points. I know you, in your heart of hearts, you believe that they are better than the Big Ten. But to settle the debate, again, this is not any biased here, even though this was my pick. We're going to have to lock it in. The Big 12, number 3. Number 2, obviously the Big Ten, for the reasons that I thought, but mostly because if we look here at the overall wins here, Ohio State is 3rd, Wisconsin 6th, Penn State is 7th. So that's 3 of the top 7 spots in wins. That's not
So-
just one team carrying the load.
The Big Ten actually has the most wins based on all of these teams from 2015 to 2019. Their teams tallied up to 279 wins.
Wait, what?
Nice.
Yes.
Wow.
So the Big Ten has the most wins and the most ranks?
They do. But the draft picks is your big jump.
Oh man, but the draft picks was the tiebreaker. So we might have to. I don't know. That really just threw me through like such a huge.
I mean,
loop.
honestly, are you really about to say the Big Ten is better than the SEC?
I
Like,
really-
those words are literally about to fall out of your mouth right now. You really think so?
They
Is this a
they
good
might.
So I got something else for you, Ben.
What's that?
Of the powerhouse typical household names of teams from the conferences. Out of that top 15 that I have written out here based on the wins, the Big Ten has 6 teams in it.
60.
They are the
Well-
number one conference based on those wins. The SEC has 4. They're tied
I
to the Big
just
12 in that time frame.
I think it would be a really neato idea if we could somehow, some way line up either like how basketball does, like how they do like their conference tournaments, they pair up conferences and they go at it. Either that or make like an all conference team that will legitimately like compete and go for like an all conference like title. I think that would be nice.
So, I'm not going to, even though with this new information, and for those who are listening, me and Ben had no idea of the actual stats going into this. This was all
No.
new information for us. Like, we just had our feelings and maybe a little bit of just knowledge of like who's been winning and stuff like that, but not the actual stats. As much as it pains me to say, even though we are ranked number 1 in overall ranked and overall wins, I will say, and the boys are probably going to agree with why I'm going to keep the Big Ten as the second best conference, is because of that talent. And even though the talent was our tiebreaker, not our main criteria, I'm going to go ahead and include it here because there is a big difference from top to bottom of the SEC. While the top of the Big Ten certainly can go blow for blow with the SEC. I think it's that middle and bottom of the conference that we're not going to get into today. That might be something that we need to parking lot to revisit because of this new information. But the bottom of the Big Ten, the middle of the Big Ten, and the middle of the SEC and the bottom of the SEC, the SEC just as top to bottom, I think overall conferences is better. Kentucky would be, the bottom of the Big Ten, right?
I mean, SEC. Say Kentucky.
Yeah,
No,
Kentucky. I'm saying
Kentucky would be the worst team in the Big
Oh,
Ten.
so you're
Yeah,
saying like
yeah,
if
like-
Kentucky went up against the worst in the okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Like
I'm
if
thinking-
if Kentucky was in the Big Ten, they'd be
like if they went up against Rutgers,
they'd probably be a 9-10 win team, instead of a 6-7 win team, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, another how we were going through the last 5 years or whatever. You look at the playoffs, how many ACC teams have been in the playoffs? Clemson. I'll wait for the rest. There are none, right?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, and then when we look at the Big Ten, right, where there's been Michigan State, Ohio State, wasn't Wisconsin in it?
Did you just say Michigan State?
They were in the playoffs. They played Alabama in the playoffs.
When was that?
Michigan State appeared in 2015-16 season.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I-
Alabama beat them 38-0.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
stiff
They
arm
shouldn't have been in
sent
there.
the dude flying. But
Was-
yeah, but I'm just saying, the Big Ten has had more teams.
Right.
They're just a better conference. They've had a bigger variety of teams to pop in than the ACC. ACC's trash. The Big 12, you think of it, they've only had, Oklahoma?
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
I
the
would
only
say
one.
the Big 12 is top to bottom better than the ACC, and obviously the Pac-12. And I think that the middle part of the SEC is a lot better than the middle part of the Big Ten. But the reason why we're having this debate today, and our first intro to our podcast, is because Ben was throwing a lot of shade on my Big Ten. A lot of shade.
I mean, I'm just saying, past Ohio State, past Wisconsin. Okay, who do you really have? Penn State pops up here and there, right?
Penn State.
But other than that,
Michigan
that.
has not been bad in the last 4 years in terms of
Michigan.
in terms
Michigan
of
It's
has
that kind of
overall
won.
mindset that's
wins.
given Harbaugh
Overall
a
wins.
job. It's that kind of mindset.
Harbaugh is
Michigan
not
had
a
nine
bad
wins
coach.
last year.
Obviously, Michigan does not care about winning. 'Cause if they did, they'd be trying to change something. But keep the same train rolling. What do you think's gonna happen?
So okay, so we're getting into some parking lot here, Ben. But I will say, in Michigan's defense, that Harbaugh is the best coach that they've had since what Lloyd
Oh,
Lloyd.
no, I agree.
Okay, then.
But
So they
I
shouldn't
mean,
just like who else is out there though
he
that they
doesn't need
could
to be head
grab?
coach. I don't think. Yeah.
Who?
He's a
Okay,
good recruiter,
who would be better than Harbaugh right now
good with
that could
quarterbacks.
take it over there?
Nobody. I don't know.
So,
I really don't care.
what would
Honestly.
what would you consider a good record for the season, Ben?
What do I consider a good record for a season?
Yeah.
Like just like you can kind of hang your hat on it. Like okay,
Yeah, you can
that was
be
a
you
good
can be
season.
proud of it.
What's that, like 12 games, right? 8
No,
and 4?
they play 13.
They play 13, so I'd say
13 with the bowl game. So 13 total, yes.
well, not I don't want to include a bowl game, I guess. Regular season.
I mean, I would go ahead and include it because obviously, you're at least going to
Okay.
want 6 wins.
So 13
and
games.
That's a bowl game.
I mean, like a good year would be I guess 9 and 4. 9 and 4 is definitely a good year. You can definitely feel good about that. You can't feel bad about that.
So how many times since Jim Harbaugh's been at Michigan do you think he's finished 9 and 4 or better?
9 and
Out
4
of
or
one,
better.
two, he's been there. This will be his 6th year.
3.
So we're not. You think he's done it 3 times?
I think so. I think he's only done it 3.
4 out of the 5 past years. He was 10 and 3, 10 and 3, 8 and 5, 10 and 3, 9 and 4.
Okay, so good years, but what have been the results of those years? What about the bowl games? Did they win the bowl games? I think he's lost a lot of bowl
He
games, hasn't he?
won his first bowl game and has lost the last 4.
Yeah. So see, like I can't.
See,
I don't know. Like that's
see,
why I
Ben-
say
you
the
just-
regular
you just-
season.
Ben's
But you
doing.
just said that was the season you could hang your head on 9 and 4.
I understand. But
Before
I just
that,
feel
he
like
said he was a bad coach.
he is a bad coach.
I'm just
because
giving you
he's
the
not
numbers.
finishing the job. Obviously, there's something. There's something wrong. Whether he may be a really good coach, but there's something that's going on. Maybe they need to look maybe a little deeper, go into, coordinators or
So-
go into strength and conditioning. I don't know.
I watch a lot of.
If you had a 47 and 18 record over 5 years as a coach, would you think you need to keep your job?
Yeah, I would feel like I would need to keep my job. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So, basically I said all that and we went through that to say that Michigan is not a bad program, and I don't want anybody to think that we're gonna throw shade on Michigan here on this channel because they're so solid. They are solid.
Name who you would say, in your opinion, top 10 football programs to go to if you were going to send your son to go there. I know, obviously, position.
Okay, that is a whole.
Take that out.
That's a parking lot. We're gonna parking lot that because that
Like,
is.
I mean,
That's a 45-minute discussion.
That's a 40. Yeah, that's a
per position.
That's a whole. Yeah, you could break that down to per position. You could break that down to offense or defense. You could break that down so many different ways. I don't want to get into that right now.
Based on head coach, then head coach is running the show, right?
But
Based on head
okay,
coach.
just to continue with Harbaugh for a second.
Okay.
What do you think his NFL coaching record was? So a lot of the time, somebody will do.
Dude, honestly, I forgot he even coached in the NFL. Where did he coach?
coached in the NFL
49ers?
4 years for the 49ers. What do you think his
4
record
years.
was?
He was good in the NFL, I feel like. I just kind of forgot he coached there.
It is almost identical to his Michigan record. He was 44 wins, 19 losses, and a tie in the NFL in 4 years.
And did make it to the Super Bowl.
They lost to the
Yeah.
NFC Championship to the Giants. They lost to the Ravens in the Super Bowl.
Very good.
They lost to the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game, and then they went 8-8 his final year, and he was fired or let go.
Yeah. So I'm just saying. I'm not saying he's like the greatest. I'm not saying he's, top 5 and college coaches right now. I'm just saying that he deserves a lot more credit than what he's getting, because if you look at the last 5 years, what did he really have at quarterback? And that might be a discussion of like, well, he should be recruiting better. A lot of these
Yeah,
top
that
quarterbacks.
Shea Peterson guy who was
Really?
supposed
Really?
to be okay.
Really?
He was supposed
Really,
to be
Ben?
okay. They hyped him up. I'm just
They
saying.
did hype him up. He was
The
supposed to
people
be
who are
okay.
experts,
He
they
was
hype
a
him up.
5-star recruit, but just because you're rated as a 5-star recruit coming out of high school doesn't mean that you're going to be a 5-star recruit.
But on paper,
On
if we're going
paper,
by
he was supposed to be
recruiting,
good, but
it
he
shows
was already
that
he
had
already
a
played
5-star quarterback.
what, 1 or 2 seasons at where did he come
He
from?
played
Miss-
2
I mean,
seasons at Ole Miss.
If you
At Ole
look at
Miss.
it with Nick Saban,
And he didn't do
Mac
nothing
Jones
there.
is a 3-star quarterback.
He was a 4-star. He was almost a
Mac was a
5-star.
4?
Yeah,
But
Mac
look
was
at the
almost a
weapons that
5-star.
Mac has compared to the
But
weapons that
Exactly.
I
Shea
mean, I'm
had.
just saying, Michigan, they're known for having pretty good
They
receivers.
had good running
Jake
backs
Butt.
and good receivers. That's
Yeah,
why
I
I'm
mean,
saying
tight
that
ends,
Shea
so
was
there are
not good
weapons.
because he couldn't put it all together. That's what I'm
And
saying.
they always
And-
have a decent offensive line. There was a
Right.
big dude at
So
Michigan.
it's not the skill positions. I truly believe. I watch a lot of Big Ten football,
It's
and
true, he does.
I've seen a number
Naked.
of my oldest little brother is a big Michigan fan. This isn't
Oh,
biased.
yeah.
So when I watch these games, I see some receivers running open that are getting missed. I see some. Some.
Well, then isn't Harbaugh supposed to be a quarterback coach?
Well, he was a quarterback.
So-
He was a quarterback. But these quarterbacks don't want to go play for a pro style
You get a
offense. They want to
5-star
go to
quarterback
these spread
with
offenses.
a quarterback coach.
He
then,
wasn't a true
He's going
five-
to make a system that's going to be set up for this guy to throw and succeed.
But Shea Patterson, was he actually deserving of that 5-star rating?
No.
I don't think he was. I think he
No,
was
he wasn't.
just he
But
was
I'm just saying, on
athletic.
paper.
Any athletic
that's how
quarterback
it
these
looks.
days is going to get a 4 or 5-star rating. Just saying. I don't think Shea Patterson was ever a 5-star true quarterback. That's
Michigan right now is booty.
that is some again. Okay.
Looks like
Ben's
Shea Patterson's best year was as a sophomore in high school.
Yeah.
He threw for 2,600 yards and 34 touchdowns as a sophomore.
and then it was all downhill from there. So Ben's
He's living up that high school high.
so Ben's comments about Michigan are not reflected here on everything.
that is my own
We're gonna go
personal
ahead
opinion.
and say
Right now,
those are his
Michigan
personal
is
opinions.
boo.
We are definitely not in agreement there. I think Tyler's actually really backing me up here on like Michigan's not as bad
You
as
think
people
Michigan
think.
is good, Tyler? You think they're a
I think
good
they're a good
program,
team.
like
Yeah,
under
I think
Harbaugh?
that they are a good program.
I mean,
Harbaugh head coach.
the numbers speak.
Yeah. Okay, so
Okay,
we
but
got
let's-
sidelined
How
here
many
for a
top
good
25 wins do they have in the last 5 or under Harbaugh? How many top 25?
Ben's-
or no,
Ben's
not top
trying
25, not
to
top 25.
rule
Let's
them
do,
over here.
if you want to gauge him being good, let's go with top 10. I guess we'll just stretch it with 10.
Top 10.
Against top 10 teams, how successful is he?
Give me one moment, and I'll give you that. So Jim Harbaugh gets top 10 teams in college.
Yeah, who, like, what's his record against top 10 teams at Michigan in his 10 years there, his 6 years? Like, the top 10 teams
Okay.
he would have been facing would have been, like, Ohio State, would have been Penn State, would have been Wisconsin, consistently. Top 10, no, I don't think, maybe Michigan State, because they went to the playoffs one year while he was
So
there. Right?
against top 10 teams in his 5 seasons, he's 2-11.
2-11. See? Okay, so in
Okay.
the big game, that's who you want coaching Michigan.
No, I
He's
just said he's a
2-11.
good coach. We're
Yeah,
not going
yeah,
based
we're not-
on-
we're not
Yeah, he's just a
debating-
good coach.
Yeah, we're not saying that he's great. We're just saying like he doesn't deserve all the shade you're throwing, Ben.
Okay,
Like you're
but
throwing so much
I'm
shade.
just saying.
But
If
okay.
if Bill Belichick and Tom Brady wouldn't have had the success that they had as far as going to the Super Bowl and winning, but they made it to the playoffs all those years and they lost, and they were still putting up these crazy numbers and having these crazy awesome regular seasons, and they were failing in the playoffs every year, not making it, it would be different, right? Like for Bill
we're
Belichick,
gonna
Tom
park
Brady legacy.
we're gonna parking
Okay,
lot
just say it.
that, because we are gonna have a podcast on who was
That
more
wouldn't make Bill Belichick an
responsible for that
amazing, great,
dynasty.
golden jacket like coach.
We
He would just be a good coach.
we will talk about that, because that is
I
definitely
wouldn't
going to
want him if
be
he's not
a
finishing the job.
conversation that we need to have, is who was more responsible for that for that dynasty.
That's,
But for right now,
I
let's
think
go
it's
ahead and
so
wrap
boy.
up. Let's go ahead and wrap up our conversation here about the top, because we kind of went into a little bit of a tangent there a couple times today. But let's go ahead and
Sorry,
wrap it
just
up.
get so passionate.
So you are very passionate.
I got a great stat
Ben,
for you.
you go by your heart. I do respect that. You know, I'm just a facts guy. You know, I feel like the facts are Jim Harbaugh is a little bit better than you're giving him credit for. Tyler, what was your stat real quick?
2-11 versus top 10 teams.
Okay, Ben,
So-
we're off the top 10 teams. Tyler, go ahead.
That's all I'm saying.
So this is kind of like a skewed sample size.
Okay.
But what do you think Nick Saban's total record is?
Like total LSU, Miami,
All
or
time
just
head coaching
Alabama?
record.
Oh,
At Alabama, or in
all-time-
college, in college.
Oh, just college, so LSU, Alabama, and what else? Who else did he
Michigan
coach?
State, Toledo.
Michigan State and Toledo, yeah. Ooh, all time, I don't know, that's crazy. Psh, he's coached for like
248 wins.
40.
65 losses, and oddly a tie in 1995.
A tie in 95.
Yeah.
What?
So 248 and 65 losses.
95. Who did he coach in 95?
Michigan State, but we're moving on to that because you'll
That's wild.
get on a whole nother thing.
Yeah. We
Why?
now we will be talking.
Because
That's how you
When I
can do it.
Yeah, that's so we will be
That's right,
talking
yeah.
about best
So-
coaching and who we think. I think that was a nice little stat to, kind of segue into
I just feel
another
like I'm trying to,
debate about best
bring in a
coach
different
all
point of view.
time.
Harbaugh has 45 losses compared to Saban's 65.
But okay, so Harbaugh has less losses
If you
than
want
Nick
to stew
Saban.
on that,
Don't you even dare try to compare Harbaugh and
Just
Saban.
stew
Don't.
on that.
Just
for a
stay
little
still.
bit.
Okay.
Don't
So
even.
that was an awesome little stat there, Tyler. I appreciate it. Our stats guy coming in the clutch as always. He's gonna be
You see
delivering some real great
Harbaugh
stuff.
and Nick Saban coming in to recruit your son, and they're pulling out rings. Okay, Nick Saban's actually going to be pulling out national championship rings. What is Harbaugh pulling out? His wedding band and his promise ring and his high school graduation ring or something?
He's going
Like,
to tell
what is
me
he
that he
pulling
took a
out?
team to the Super Bowl.
Is he bringing out a promise
Yeah,
ring? This isn't
NFL,
a wedding ring, but this is a promise.
NFL pedigree right there. So let's go ahead and wrap this up because we've already surpassed our time here. So again,
What
this
is
is
time?
what is time, right? True. So our
Time is
final
illusion, kids.
our final
doesn't
ranking
exist.
here, if I could get control of the mic real quick. Our top five
This is exactly what happens
rankings.
in like a schizophrenic person's like head, where they're having all these personalities coming around.
So besides that, all the shade here, the final rankings, and again, these are not opinions. These are facts. Facts that we have decided today for the rest of all time, barring catastrophic changes. We do reserve that right to change our tier list with given new information. But for today, for the last 5 years, our top 5 conferences, starting with number 5, the Pac-12. Number 4, the ACC. The number 3, Big 12. The number
False.
2, Big 10. And number 1, the SEC. And
True.
if anybody was offended, oh, we don't care. Yeah. So these
True,
are
there were 0 fucks given in the production of this making and entertainment.
I'm gonna edit that last part out. But yeah, that is our top 5 sealed, signed, delivered to you all. These are facts, not opinions. If you hear anything different on any other station, that is incorrect information. Don't believe the hype. We talk about facts here, and this has been our podcast, our first one. So we're going to go ahead and pop some bottles, celebrate the night. We're going to take it as a win, and if we have anything else to say, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Any thoughts on our outro here, guys?
My final thought of this segment would be college football has always been around this season. It didn't just start whenever the Big Ten started playing.
Okay.
Taking shots.
True. All right. Tyler, any final words? Any final thoughts on the top 5 conferences debate? Not bringing up this season.
I mean, you said final thoughts. I just want to give that a shout out.
My Big 12 finished basically where I expected them to.
Okay. Yeah.
Always good enough to.
Like, are you
get to a
satisfied
bowl
with your
game,
findings?
but Not really.
Well, that's fine.
Where did Texas rank as far as like
They had
in the top 25 at all kind of thing in the last 5 years?
So I'm a Texas fan, which is why we're bringing this up. But 2018, we had a number 9 finish. And then last year, we finished 25th, and that was it from 2015 to 2019. We had 18 wins in those 2 rankings. We were tied with West Virginia.
So what I'm gonna say, since Tyler
Not what you want to be
kind of gave away his team there. Yeah, Tyler is Texas. If you couldn't tell by everything that he said throughout this podcast that you haven't learned yet, Ben is a diehard Alabama fan. He has those biased glasses on 99 out of 100 times.
No, I do not. I literally try to take my feelings out.
He sleeps with a body pillow of Nick Saban.
I just feel like there are facts.
He does have a body pillow of Nick Saban.
Yeah, these
That's
are
a
facts.
And it is
Just
5'2", so it is actual height.
Yeah, this is true.
Like, no lie, I have his cologne and I spray it on it.
And
just in case you were wondering.
And I am an Ohio State fan. For all my life, and that will stay true through all the thick and the thin. But
Even through Tressel?
We've been pretty, even through Tressel.
Ooh.
I forgive Tressel because I felt like, and that's going to be a debate for another time, but I feel like that was...
I mean, at least with Mike Price in Alabama, he didn't even coach a game, so...
Well, all I'm going to say about the Tressel era is what those boys got in trouble with in a couple years won't even matter. So...
That's true,
I think that those
new rules
and they are for the better. They should have never really gotten in trouble. So I mean, I'm just saying.
I think those wins should be reinstated, just personally. But even if they're not, we can all look back and know that Tressel was still a very solid coach, very consistent, and that's a whole debate for another time. But that's it for us. We're going to sign off tonight. Good night. Stay happy. Stay healthy.
Wait, when did we ever sign off?
And remember that Jim Harbaugh is taller than Nick Saban. Thank you.
Stop, it doesn't even matter.
Take care, everybody.
That's why he makes the perfect body.
I always want to be amongst the lonely